I'm going to be starting to make more content featuring local cafes, businesses, and roasters on the channel, and I thought it would be appropriate to kind of show you guys how I got into all of this with the cafe Paper Moon Coffee. Full disclosure, I am affiliated with Paper Moon Coffee, but not really on their retail end. I actually work on their nonprofit Coffee Housing. Coffee Housing is an affordable housing initiative in the coffee industry. We're basically trying to tackle the issues with rent, bring awareness to the challenges that industry workers such as your baristas actually face. I think this is really important to talk about, and we'll talk about the coffee soon, because as an enthusiast, when I was looking into the industry through a lens of what are the best coffee beans, I really just glossed over the fact that the people who build the industry face so many challenges. You'll actually be seeing an interview with Wendy Warren, who's the founder of Paper Moon Coffee, as well as Coffee Housing. And she provides healthcare and insurance and even a 401k plan to her baristas. And this is often basically unheard of many of the shops that I've talked to and baristas I've talked to, and I just really want to highlight that. Additionally, going forward, I'm going to try to highlight more of these local businesses and roasters and hopefully bring up many of the challenges and highlight the stories of the people that build the industry that we love. Without these people, especially during this time of all of the years, you wouldn't be able to enjoy that fancy gear, any of this fancy gear, if you didn't have coffee or good beans. So if I were watching, I would support many of my local shops, people that you can walk into, if you can actually walk into your coffee shop, order online, help them out. And for this particular video, we're going to be doing a 15% off discount on all of the coffees from Paper Moon Coffee. Just use the code BRIAN15. As much as I want you guys to buy Paper Moon Coffee, please support your local shops, support your local baristas. It is something that needs to be done. So without further ado, let's get into the coffee. For me, I'm going to be talking about the different brewing preferences. Mostly it's going to be espresso because that's just what I have. I don't do many pour-overs, but what I taste out of the beans, recommended ratios, some temps, as well as a recommendation as to what type of flavor profile or tasting notes you would like out of each of these beans. I have 7 coffees here today. I have Helios, which is an espresso blend, Rwanda single origin, Nicaragua single origin, Ethiopia single origin, Honduras single origin, Colombia single origin decaf, as well as the holiday season GESHA blend, which I think they'll have a lot of, so don't be afraid of it going out of sale. I have not tried the decaf, so that'll be a fun, what does it actually taste like? I've had a lot of everything else, and I have a particular flavor preference, which I will share right now. So I really like medium to light roasts because I really like the familiarity of having, I guess, sort of chocolate notes, as well as veering towards acidity or fruity notes. So that's my particular preference, which you'll probably see throughout the entire video as to why I really like all of these beans. The reason why I like Helios so much is because it is such a reliable blend of beans. I think the way to put it is that it's just incredibly flexible. And why do I say that? Because it doesn't really matter how good of a recipe you use or the equipment you use. When I was using low-end gear, I was able to get really great results. I think what is unique about Helios is that it is your medium to light roast, but you can get some of those citrus notes and acidity that you would find in just only a light roast without having the super high-end equipment required to pull those flavor notes out of a light roast. And that's why Helios is my go-to espresso blend, and it's been my go-to espresso blend even before I was affiliated with Paper Moon. Helios is really great from 194 to 198 actually. It's pretty flexible in terms of brewing temperatures. Even if you have a single boiler machine with crazy temperature swings, you will be able to still pull out some of the citrus and fruit notes of Helios while maintaining the ease of use of a medium roast blend. My preferred drinks, I actually use this in everything. I toss it into lattes, into cappuccinos, but my favorite way to enjoy Helios is actually over ice in an iced Americano. I think for whatever reason, I'm able to taste the slight fruitiness of Helios, but I like to keep the crema because it just sort of makes the entire drink more pleasurable to taste, where it's not too sweet, not too bitter. It's kind of just in this really great middle ground. I like a 1-to-2 ratio, kind of 194 to 198 degrees if you do have temperature control on your machine. Personally speaking, I think Helios is just that one blend you should try out of all of the coffees, because it works under so many different conditions and you don't need to have the highest end gear to actually taste some of the flavor notes. Now that I've talked about Helios, I think it's a really great segue into the single origins from Paper Moon. And I think this is, personally, my opinion, the best tasting single origin of Paper Moon, Rwanda. And the reason why I like Rwanda so much is because this was the very, very first time in any of the coffees I've tried where blueberry was actually apparent. I think it's very interesting there because when we experience blueberry in coffee, it's oftentimes just like a hint of it. This is like a lot of blueberry. It's very difficult for me to describe that to you, but I think this is incredibly great actually as a pour over. If you can do a really great pour over of this, you're going to get, it's just going to be blueberry everywhere. There is actually a video done by Connor, who is one of the baristas of Paper Moon, showcasing you how to actually properly do a pour over of Rwanda. But when it comes to espresso, I actually really like this in a larger ratio, like a 1-to-3 if I'm drinking it straight. But what is very interesting and fun with something like Rwanda is if you do pull a 1-to-2 or even a 1-to-3 and you make it into a latte, you're now able to get a very fruity latte. And I think that's really fun to do. If you really like the fruitiness of coffees and you really want to taste stuff like blueberry and strawberry, this is my recommendation for you. I know a lot of people out there want something more familiar, like with chocolatiness in it, but if you were looking for that full-on fruit bomb, this is it. Because we just talked about Rwanda, which is probably the most fruity bean offered by Paper Moon. The next tier down in terms of fruitiness, where we add a little bit of those chocolate notes back, is actually Ethiopia here. Ethiopia is actually really interesting because when you tone down some of the fruit, you bring back a lot of the chocolatiness in my experience with this. And it's kind of like a milk chocolate, which is super interesting. It's not like very impactful dark chocolate that you might find in something like a darker roast, because this is, a more medium to light roast. The way I would put this is it's kind of like Helios with sweeter, fruitier notes added in. It's very subtle, I will admit, but it is a lot sweeter and more approachable than like pure acidicness that you may find in a Helios type of blend. I really enjoy this actually in a 1-to-2 format. The 18 grams in, 36 out. I actually brew this slightly higher temperature at around like 198, 199. That's where I really am finding many of the flavors to come out of this. This is something that I don't really know if I will recommend very much, but if you do end up buying a bag of Ethiopia, try it as a cold brew. This is interesting because you would expect basically to lose all of the flavor notes when you do a cold brew, but this is the one I tried these all as cold brews, don't hate me for that, but this as a cold brew actually lets you just get a little bit of sweetness, which is very funny because usually cold brew gets rid of everything. And that's why a lot of people don't like cold brew. This is something I would really recommend for if you wanted to do something that wasn't too fruity and wasn't too acidic. This feels like just that slight tier down, tone down both of those aspects, and you're getting something that's just very sweet overall with slight fruit notes. And the fruit in this case is not citrus or acidicness, it is really something more sweet. Talking about Ethiopia lets me segue perfectly into Honduras. Honduras is basically Ethiopia without the fruit in pretty much all conditions that I've tried it under. I think this is what people are looking for if they're just looking for something really sweet without the fruit. I know some of you guys that I've talked to, you guys just say, I hate fruit. And this is what I recommend to you. If you just want that really fragrant, sweet cup in both an espresso, pour over, this is it. This is the way you get it without the fruit. There is a note on here called Bing cherries. I can't really taste that. I'm gonna be honest, can't really taste that. What I am just tasting is just sweetness across the board. But this is really what I would recommend for you guys who you don't want any sort of acidity, you don't want any sort of fruit notes. This is what I would just say if you just want something nice and sweet. Pick the Honduras. And because we are talking about Honduras, I'm gonna talk about the GESHA blend this year. It's a Festivus miracle. GESHA blend. This is actually a 50-50 mix of the Honduras that I just talked about and GESHA. So what GESHA, because I actually never had GESHA until this year, GESHA brings in a lot of acidity and fruitiness. More so acidity in my particular experience, but I know that is a preferable taste for some people. But combine that with the sweetness of Honduras, I think it really balances out. I don't really think I could take full on GESHA, at least in an espresso form or like a blooming espresso or even as a pour over. But having that Honduras mixed in with the GESHA seems to really pair very well, where it just gets you something more sweet. So this blend just adds in that little bit of the acidity that you find, or acidity / fruitiness that you would find with GESHA, and you mix it in with the Honduras, which is just very sweet, and you get something that's kind of a middle good balance and blend of both worlds. So I think if you were looking for that type of flavor, this is what I would recommend for you. By the way, if you actually go to the store, we are giving $5 for every bag of GESHA purchased to Coffee Housing. There is a table and you can go and buy that. But if you're buying online, use the discount code, and I really hope you enjoy this blend because I've really enjoyed it. I think as a pour over, it's amazing. If you can do it as a pour over, you can do a good recipe pour over. This is the one I would go. As an espresso, it's a little weird. I think if you're really looking for like a very acidic espresso and a latte type of thing, this is one of those espressos that when you do pull it, it will cut through the milk. And I don't know if that's preferred. I am on the fence as to if I really like it or not as an espresso. As a blooming espresso, it is amazing, but you need one of these guys to do a good blooming espresso. So I think as an espresso, I probably would skip it, but if you can do a good pour over on it, I would do it as a pour over. I have not cold brewed these, nor will I do that because I don't really want to waste high-end beans. So I actually went off script a little, but next is Nicaragua. So Nicaragua, I have a love-hate relationship with. This is the bean that I used in my dialing in espresso video. I showed you guys how to dial in the Nicaragua. Personally speaking, I don't really like dark roast. This is a roast that skews more towards the darker end of things. If you were looking for a really great single origin that works great as a espresso, pour over, I actually really like this as a cold brew. I'm gonna be honest, I think this tastes the best as a cold brew. Many of you guys looking into the espresso, you want something that's just easy to pull. Like this is easy to pull. I think this is just really simple to use. It works really well and under a lot of different brewing methods. The way to think about Nicaragua is it's basically all the properties of Helios apply to Nicaragua. It just doesn't have any sort of that acidity. It's just a darker roast. So it's going to taste a lot more skewed towards the chocolatey side of things without acidity that you would find in the fruit notes of something like a Helios, or citrus notes to be exact. I actually have never had Colombia at all. I don't really drink decafs. So just right now, when filming this, I just dialed in Colombia, and this is my very first initial impressions of it. My other impressions for all the other beans are just a lot more solid because I've had a lot more of each of them. What I am tasting with this, I tried it straight, I finally dialed it in, And it is a dark roast. It's very interesting where some of the flavor notes are a little bit of acidity within a dark roast. Like I don't even know if that's a thing, but that's what I was tasting. And really, I don't really think this is really good that's just straight. I think this actually works really, really well I just made myself a latte of this. I think this is kind of like a Nicaragua with a little bit of acidity in it. And also it's decaf. So we're not really getting much caffeination right now as I'm drinking this. But overall, pretty enjoyable. Yeah, not bad. Okay, so now that I've gone over all of the different coffees and I've told you about my favorite ways to make each of them, I think I'm going to just tell you guys about my favorite ones. My top two favorite, I would say, are the Rwanda, I think, and the Helios. Rwanda because it's still, for me, just so apparent that you get fruits, or really blueberry and strawberry, with a little bit of acidity, which is, I think, supposed to be a bourbon note, in any of the coffees. Like, in an espresso, tastes really great. I'm getting those notes. In a latte, I'm able to get a fruity latte, and that's kind of funny. But if you were looking for a sweeter, fruitier latte, my second choice is Helios. And the reason why I think Helios is just really great is because it's an incredibly approachable bean, right? We can use Helios in everything. If you don't have high-end equipment, it works. If you have high-end equipment, it works even better. And that was what I really liked about Helios, is it didn't really matter what type of equipment I had. I was always able to taste the flavor notes on the bag. And that's kind of hard to say with really light roasts or beans that aren't as flexible. And that's really why I think Helios is in my top two. So I really hope you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on all of Paper Moon's coffees. Really, it's an opportunity for me to feature a local business through my videos, as well as hopefully help drive awareness to who they are and maybe even get them some coffee bean sales. At the end of the day, it is my job to hopefully highlight some of these challenges of industry workers. And that's really what I want to do with these types of videos. Of course, the gear and all of that is cool, but there's no reason of having any high-end gear if there's no one that can make the beans for us to enjoy our high-end gear. And that's really why I want to bring awareness and shed a light to the people who actually allow us to exist as enthusiasts. So I really hope you enjoyed that video. Remember, there is a 15% off code, BRIAN15, in the video. Just put it in on their website. You'll receive 15% off of any of the coffees there. I really hope you enjoyed just listening to me talk about coffee this time, not high-end gear, more mission-based stuff. Because this is really what I want to eventually do. But do keep in mind, I'll be making more of these fancy equipment videos, but this is a different type of video, and really what I want to continue momentum on is to just show you guys people that I work with, people that I know, people I've talked to, and showcase their stories as well as their missions and what they do in the industry for us as enthusiasts that we kind of just never see. So please support Paper Moon Coffee. Definitely, if you want to talk about coffee housing, we'd really appreciate you visiting the website, potentially making a donation to us. It is tax deductible, so you can do that. But ultimately, we're doing research right now. We're trying to raise awareness to these problems in the industry, and we hope you continue following us. And as always, thank you for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel, and I hope to provide you more interesting content later on. Thank you.